Hey guys, tonight we travel to the northern coast of France, early June 6th, 1944. The world is heavy with anticipation, but in the quiet of a German defensive bunker, a young soldier named Hans braces himself against the chill wind blowing off the channel. The dawn light is pale, filtered through mist and fog. The waves lap gently at the shore, almost as if the ocean itself is holding its breath. Inside the concrete fortifications, the scent of damp earth and cold metal mingles with the faint tang of tobacco from a soldier nervously puffing at a cigarette. Hans checks his gear again. His rifle is clean, ammunition stacked neatly, helmet fitted just so. Everything in order. The world outside is silent, but his mind hums with anticipation. He thinks of his family back in Bavaria, his mother baking bread, the smell of warm pretzels in the kitchen, his father's quiet laughter echoing across the wooden floors. The morning stretches slowly. Each wave, each seagull's call, each distant clatter of equipment resonates like a heartbeat. Around him, comrades whisper softly, checking defenses, adjusting sandbags, shifting metal barriers. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. The quiet is heavy, almost sacred. Hans crouches near the observation slit, peering toward the misty horizon. Nothing moves yet, but the tension is palpable. He imagines the world on the other side, allied forces assembling, ships drifting toward the beaches, soldiers holding their own breaths, just like him. It is a surreal feeling, suspended between peace and chaos. Hans's thoughts drift. He recalls the small comforts of letters from home, the quiet evenings by a fireplace, the smell of pine forests. They are distant memories, yet they anchor him amidst the unknown. Somewhere behind him, a comrade hums a tune softly, barely audible. Hans smiles, faintly, a small, human moment in the calm. There is irony in the quiet laughter. Here they are, thousands of miles from home, defending a coastline most will never truly know, humming old songs to soothe frayed nerves. The wind shifts, carrying the salt and chill of the sea. Hans adjusts his jacket, feeling the cold bite through the fabric. He notices how the concrete walls of the bunker absorb the sounds, the small creaks of movement, the distant shuffle of boots, the soft murmur of whispered instructions. These are the music of the morning, rhythmic and grounding. He takes a deep breath, imagining the expanse of water before him. The channel stretches endlessly, waves reflecting the pale light. Somewhere, beyond that mist, the engines will begin to hum, the horizon will stir, and the world will change. But for now, there is stillness, a fragile, fleeting stillness. Hans allows himself a moment of calm. He leans back against the cold wall, feeling the weight of the uniform, the helmet, the rifle. He listens to the subtle symphony of the morning, the drip of condensation, the whisper of wind, the faint chatter of comrades. Each sound anchors him. Each sound reminds him he is alive. And so, as the sun begins to lighten the mist, Hans closes his eyes for a brief moment, letting the calm seep in, letting his mind drift gently. Outside, the waves continue their soft, endless rhythm, carrying away all tension, all worry, until nothing remains but the quiet heartbeat of anticipation. Tonight, we follow Hans as he faces the dawn of one of the most pivotal days in history. But for now, we linger in the calm, the quiet, the fragile peace before the storm. As the morning mist begins to lift, Hans moves quietly among the defensive positions along the Normandy coastline. The air is damp and cool, carrying the smell of salt, wet sand, and the faint iron tang of the metal obstacles scattered across the beach. Each piece of equipment, the wooden stakes, the concrete tetrahedrons, the twisted metal bars, sits like a silent sentinel, awaiting the unknown. Hans's fingers brush against the rough surfaces of the fortifications, feeling the texture of wood and stone under his gloves. The morning light glances off the wet sand, creating tiny sparks of brightness that dance across the beach. It is beautiful in a strange, melancholic way, a coastline meant to protect, yet destined to witness chaos. Around him, other soldiers move with quiet precision. They shift sandbags, check weapons, and whisper brief instructions. No one speaks loudly. The morning's hush is respected. Hans notices the small details, the way the straps of a rifle creak as it is adjusted, the soft scrape of boots on gravel, the occasional cough muffled into a sleeve. These sounds form a rhythm, a kind of heartbeat for the sleeping coastline. He pauses at a concrete bunker, running his hand along the cool wall. It is a heavy structure designed to last, to hold and protect. He imagines the history of this place, the engineers who built it, the men who first set foot inside, the silent nights of anticipation, much like his own. He feels a strange connection to them, a bond across time, grounded in the shared experience of waiting. Hans crouches low and looks out toward the horizon. The channel remains calm, waves rolling gently against the shore. Yet he senses the tension, the unspoken awareness among his comrades that something monumental is approaching. He breathes slowly, deliberately, letting the cool air fill his lungs and calm the subtle tremor in his hands. Occasionally, a small joke passes between two soldiers, a whispered comment about the awkward position of a metal spike or the way a crate was stacked too high. Hans allows himself a faint smile. These human moments, tiny sparks of normalcy, are like a protective shield against fear. They remind him that even here, in a world poised on the edge of chaos, humanity persists. The wind shifts again, carrying with it a faint hint of smoke from distant fires, or perhaps just the tang of machinery warming in the early sun. Hans adjusts his helmet, feeling the weight of it pressing gently against his head. Every sensation, the texture of his gloves, the chill of the air, the rhythmic lapping of the waves, anchors him in the moment, grounding him in a reality that is both immediate and fragile. He moves to check the mines and barriers, careful not to disturb the delicate arrangements. Each obstacle is part of a larger design, a latticework of preparation meant to deter and defend. Hans thinks about the men who will come later, the soldiers on the other side of the water, and a quiet curiosity stirs within him. He wonders what they will feel, what they will think, what memories this day will leave in their minds. By mid-morning, the mist has fully lifted. The coastline stretches endlessly in both directions, dotted with bunkers, obstacles, and the figures of silent soldiers standing watch. Hans takes a moment to sit on a low wall, letting the sun's warmth seep through his uniform. He closes his eyes briefly, listening to the soft symphony of the morning, the distant call of a gull, the gentle crash of waves, the murmur of his comrades' movements. In these quiet, meditative moments, Hans feels the calm before the storm. He is aware of what is coming, yet for now, there is only the rhythm of preparation, the poetry of ordinary actions imbued with extraordinary significance. And in that awareness, he finds a strange comfort, a tether to both the present and the world beyond the horizon. Tonight, We will continue with Hans as the hours pass and the horizon begins to stir, as anticipation deepens and the first whispers of the invasion reach the silent coast. The morning light now fully illuminates the coastline, revealing the gentle slope of the sandy beach and the low cliffs that frame the cove. Hans crouches near a concrete bunker, his eyes tracing the horizon. At first, everything seems calm. The sea is a soft, rolling expanse of blue-gray, its surface catching the sunlight in faint glimmers. Yet there is a subtle disturbance, something almost imperceptible, the far-off hum of engines or the faint ripple of movement across the water. Hans shifts his weight, the soles of his boots pressing into the damp sand beneath him. He notices a few small figures far on the horizon, tiny dots that might be gulls or the reflection of sunlight on waves. But there is rhythm in their movement, a pattern that feels deliberate. He leans forward slightly, focusing. The faint vibration of engines now becomes audible, almost like a soft, distant pulse beneath the quiet of the morning. Around him, his comrades move with practiced calm. No one speaks loudly. The air is filled with the hushed whispers of soldiers checking weapons and scanning the sea. Each man is absorbed in his own rhythm, yet collectively they form a quiet orchestra of anticipation. Hans notices the way the sun glints off metal helmets, casting tiny, fleeting sparks across the sand. Small details anchor him, the feel of his gloves, the cool pressure of his rifle against his shoulder, the gentle tug of wind on the uniform. He recalls earlier mornings spent in training, the endless drills, the hours of repetition. Those memories, once monotonous, now feel like preparation for this very moment. He feels the strange duality of awareness and calm, the knowledge that the horizon holds a world-altering event, and the realization that he can only do what is in his control. Observe, brace, and wait. The dots on the horizon grow slowly, the hum of engines rising. Small boats begin to appear, their wakes faintly white against the gray-blue water. Hans shifts slightly, leaning on the edge of the bunker to get a better view. He notices the meticulous way his fellow soldiers adjust their positions, checking obstacles and reinforcing barricades. Each action is small, deliberate, purposeful, a quiet choreography against the unseen tide approaching. He can almost feel the ocean vibrating beneath the approaching flotilla, a rhythm both gentle and insistent. The wind carries a hint of salt and engine oil, mingled with the faint aroma of damp canvas and wood. Each inhale grounds him, connects him to the immediate moment, and keeps the rising tension from overwhelming his senses. A distant gull cries overhead, its voice sharp against the soft roar of the waves. Hans notices the irony. The natural world continues its rhythm, oblivious to the machinery of human conflict unfolding beneath it. He allows himself a quiet, almost imperceptible smile, a brief connection to the ordinary world amidst the extraordinary. Minutes stretch like hours. The first boats appear more distinctly now, their shapes clearer against the waves. Hans studies them silently, noting their slow, methodical advance. His thoughts wander briefly to home, to his village, to his mother's kitchen, to the smell of baked bread, and he feels a moment of warmth, a tether to a life beyond this shoreline. The day moves slowly, measured in soft breaths, the hum of distant engines, and the gentle crash of waves. Hans remains vigilant, aware of every subtle shift in the horizon. The tension is a quiet companion, steady and persistent, but there is also a strange beauty in the unfolding scene. The interplay of light on water, the choreography of men and machines, the stillness beneath the growing tide of movement. And in this quiet observation, Hans finds a strange calm. The world may be on the verge of upheaval, but for now, he is grounded. Each detail, the glint of metal, the shifting waves, the rhythm of his own heartbeat, anchors him to the moment, preparing him, slowly, for what is yet to come. The horizon is changing, but the morning remains serene, the beach alive with anticipation, the sea whispering secrets only a careful observer can hear. The morning sun climbs higher, casting a pale light over the endless stretch of sand and sea. Hans remains in the shadow of his bunker, observing the horizon with quiet attentiveness. The distant hum he noticed before has grown, subtle yet insistent, like the pulse of the world itself quickening. Shapes on the water become more defined, tiny specks transforming into the outlines of boats, their wakes tracing soft white lines across the channel. Hans shifts slightly, the sand beneath him cool and damp, grounding him to the moment. Around him, his comrades continue their silent tasks, adjusting barriers, checking mines, and whispering brief observations to one another. Each small movement seems amplified in the stillness of the morning. There is a rhythm to their preparation, a quiet choreography performed without fanfare. The flotilla grows larger. Small craft advance in neat lines, their engines humming steadily. Hans notices the occasional flash of sunlight on metal, glinting off the bows of ships, a visual rhythm that pulses with the soft thrum of the engines. His heart beats a little faster, not in panic, but in awareness, a measured response to the slowly building tide of human movement approaching his position. The wind carries the familiar scent of salt and seaweed, mingled now with the faint tang of engine oil and smoke from distant vessels. Hans breathes slowly, letting the aromas anchor him. Each inhale and exhale becomes a gentle meditation, a tether to the present as the world beyond the horizon begins to stir with motion. He glances at the dunes and cliffs surrounding the beach, noting the strategic placements of obstacles, wooden stakes, and metal tetrahedrons. Everything is silent yet purposeful. Each structure seems to whisper its own story, the careful design of men who prepared long ago for this very moment. Hans feels a strange kinship with those who built them, understanding the quiet pride of anticipation. A faint cry pierces the air, a gull perhaps, or the whistle of wind through a distant rigging. Hans allows himself a small, almost imperceptible smile. Even as the flotilla advances, the natural world continues its rhythm, indifferent to human designs, indifferent to the tension gathering along the coastline. It is a reminder that life persists, even in the presence of upheaval. He studies the approaching boats more closely. Their numbers have grown, stretching across the horizon like a pale, moving ribbon. The engines, once a distant murmur, now thrum in a low, steady cadence. Hans imagines the soldiers within, their own quiet fears, their own small acts of preparation. A sense of shared humanity touches him, a connection between strangers on opposite sides of the tide, each bound by circumstance and anticipation. Time seems to slow. Each wave, each flicker of sunlight, each gentle shift of wind is amplified, drawing Hans's focus inward. He notices the minute movements of his comrades, a careful adjustment of a rifle, a whispered reassurance, the deliberate placement of a barrier. In these ordinary actions, there is a kind of poetry, a slow rhythm that balances the tension on the horizon. The flotilla continues its steady advance, and Hans allows his mind to wander, reflecting on home, on distant fields, on the warmth of familiar streets. These memories provide comfort, a buffer against the rising tide of awareness that the world beyond the bunker is changing. And yet, even as the ships inch closer, there is calm. The morning remains gentle, the waves continue their soft cadence, and the air carries the faint, constant heartbeat of anticipation. Hans breathes slowly, grounding himself in the present, readying for the hours to come, knowing that while the day will be long, the quiet moments of observation, reflection, and connection remain his anchor. The horizon is no longer empty. Movement, sound, and light mingle in a slow crescendo. And in that growing rhythm, Hans feels the subtle thrill of awareness. The world is waking, and he, along with his comrades, will witness history unfold. The morning stretches onward, and the channel's soft hum becomes a quiet rhythm against the sand and stone of the Normandy coast. Hans remains crouched near a bunker, observing the advancing flotilla. The shapes of boats grow larger, engines now a gentle, persistent thrum that resonates through his chest. It is a sound both unsettling and strangely meditative, like the heartbeat of the world itself. Around him, his fellow soldiers move in careful, deliberate steps. Some adjust sandbags, checking that the stakes and metal obstacles line up as intended. Others whisper brief instructions, their voices soft, as if afraid to disturb the fragile calm that still lingers. Hans notices small human moments in these silent interactions. A soldier brushing sand from a fellow's sleeve, another offering a quiet word of reassurance. These gestures are simple, almost invisible, but they ripple across the group like warmth spreading through cold stone. Hans shifts his weight, feeling the damp sand beneath his boots, the rough texture of concrete walls against his palms. Each sensation is magnified in the stillness, the slight chill of the breeze, the gentle pressure of the rifle against his shoulder, the faint vibration of the earth beneath the approaching flotilla. He inhales deeply, letting the cool, salty air fill his lungs, a grounding rhythm against the rising tide of anticipation. A faint laugh drifts from a nearby bunker, soft and fleeting. Hans allows himself a smile, a brief acknowledgement of the absurdity of finding humor in such circumstances. One soldier is nervously humming a tune, trying to mask the tension that runs beneath their disciplined movements. In these small, human moments, Hans finds a quiet camaraderie, a sense of connection that transcends fear or duty. The horizon continues to shift. Boats creep closer, their shapes now unmistakable, but Hans does not allow panic to take root. Instead, he studies the movement, appreciating the strange choreography of so many men and machines moving in unison. There is a poetry in it, a rhythm that mirrors the ebb and flow of the waves, the gentle crash of water against the sand, the soft creak of wooden decks. Hans glances at the cliffside above him, noting the sun catching on the metal of distant bunkers. The light sparkles and glimmers, like tiny reminders of beauty in a world poised on the edge of upheaval. He breathes slowly, letting his mind settle on these small details, the way light plays on surfaces, the whisper of wind through grass, the distant call of a gull. Occasionally, the soldiers speak in hushed tones, sharing small stories or jokes to steady themselves. One recounts a memory from home, the way his dog would wait by the door every evening. Another remarks on the smell of fresh bread he once tasted in a small village. a memory so ordinary, it feels almost magical now. Hans listens quietly, smiling inwardly, letting these moments anchor him in humanity amidst the uncertainty around them. Time stretches, measured in soft breaths, the gentle rhythm of waves, and the subtle movement of the flotilla. Hans notices the subtle play of light on water, the tiny ripples that shift with the current. The horizon is no longer distant. It is present, yet still far enough to maintain the quiet calm. In this liminal space between anticipation and action, Hans allows himself reflection. He thinks of home, of the lives that continue elsewhere, of letters tucked into pockets, and the small comforts of memory. He feels the rhythm of the morning settle into his body, the thrum of engines, the pulse of the waves, the soft murmur of his comrades. And in these moments, between the waves and the approaching tide, Hans finds a quiet peace. The world is moving, history is approaching, yet here, now, he is grounded, present, and aware of every delicate detail, the heartbeat of anticipation, the whisper of wind, the human touch of camaraderie. The day will continue, and the tide will rise. But for now, there is only rhythm, observation, and the gentle, meditative heartbeat of a coastline poised on the edge of history. The morning moves slowly, the sun climbing higher, casting soft light across the dunes and obstacles along the coastline. Hans shifts slightly, the sand beneath him warm where the sun touches it, cool and damp in the shadow of the bunker. The distant hum of engines continues, a low, steady rhythm against the faint crash of waves on the shore. A sudden, subtle clatter echoes from the direction of one of the bunkers. A sandbag slips, metal scrapes lightly against stone. It is nothing serious, yet in the quiet morning, the sound carries. Hans freezes for a moment, ears straining. The noise is quickly explained. A fellow soldier adjusting a defensive spike, dropping a tool. But the ripple of awareness spreads, a reminder that vigilance is always present. Hans exhales slowly, allowing the tension to ease from his shoulders. Around him, others adjust positions, whispering brief clarifications to one another. There is no panic, only the quiet acknowledgement that the world outside is shifting, that the horizon is moving closer, and that preparation matters. Every gesture, no matter how small, is part of a silent rhythm that keeps them steady. He glances at the flotilla. The shapes of boats have grown larger, their engines now a soft, steady thrum that vibrates faintly through the sand. The first flashes of sunlight reflect off metal hulls, glinting like tiny sparks across the waves. Hans studies the movement carefully, noting patterns, the way the boats navigate the gentle swell of the sea. Each observation grounds him, a tether to clarity amidst anticipation. A distant whistle sounds, a warning perhaps, or just the shift of wind through rigging. Hans notes it, mentally cataloging its position. Nearby soldiers murmur brief observations, their voices low, measured, blending with the gentle roar of the sea. Even these small alarms, mundane though they may be, create a heightened awareness, a subtle tension that threads through the morning. Hans shifts again, crouching low and adjusting the strap of his rifle. The weight of it is familiar, grounding. He notices the small details around him, the rough surface of concrete under his palms, the uneven sand, the glint of sunlight on metal stakes. Each sensation is amplified in the quiet, forming a meditative rhythm, a way to stay present as the day unfolds. Somewhere nearby, a soldier drops a box of nails, a soft clatter reverberating through the bunker. Hans hears a quiet chuckle from another, a small human acknowledgement of the absurdity of minor accidents in the midst of tense anticipation. It is these subtle gestures, humor, care, attentiveness, that tether them to a sense of normalcy, a reminder that even in the shadow of monumental events, small human actions endure. The flotilla continues its slow advance. Engines hum, waves lap, and the horizon shifts imperceptibly closer. Hans breathes deliberately, feeling the rhythm of his own heartbeat align with the cadence of the morning. Each breath, each movement, each small observation becomes a meditation, a way to remain steady while the world prepares to change beyond the dunes. He notices the way sunlight plays across the obstacles, the glint of metal, the shadow of stakes on sand, the subtle curve of concrete tetrapods. Beauty persists, even here, even in a landscape shaped for defense and anticipation. Hans allows himself to appreciate it, letting the delicate details anchor him. In these quiet, meditative moments, the subtle alarms and minor disturbances are not sources of fear, but threads in the tapestry of awareness. Each ripple, each clatter, each whisper reminds him of his place, of the fragile balance between anticipation and calm. And so, Hans remains crouched, observing, listening, breathing. The day continues to unfold, slowly, measured in soft movements, gentle sounds, and the quiet hum of history approaching across the water. The sun has climbed higher now, warming the dunes and the scattered obstacles along the coastline. Hans crouches near the bunker, his eyes tracing the horizon where the flotilla continues its steady approach. The once distant hum of engines has become a low, continuous vibration beneath the sand, almost like a heartbeat rising from the earth itself. And then, faintly, there is another sound, a soft, distant crack, like a branch snapping in a quiet forest. Hans freezes, listening. It is far away, almost imperceptible, but it carries weight in the hush of the morning. He leans closer to the bunker wall, noticing how the vibration of the flotilla resonates subtly through his boots and the sand beneath him. Around him, soldiers remain focused on their tasks. A comrade adjusts a sandbag, another shifts a metal stake into position. Quiet murmurs pass between them, low and deliberate, sharing information about what they hear, what they see, and what remains just beyond perception. Hans appreciates the rhythm of their interaction, the way small gestures communicate reassurance without breaking the calm. The distant crack comes again, soft echo bouncing across the dunes. Hans exhales slowly, letting the awareness settle in without panic. He notices the subtle changes in the environment, the way the sunlight glints off the edges of obstacles, the gentle ripple of the waves, the whisper of wind through the grass. These sensory details ground him, each one a thread tying him to the present moment. A faint column of smoke rises on the horizon, curling delicately above the waves. It is small, almost poetic, like the signature of a distant kettle, yet it hints at the world beyond his observation post beginning to stir. Hans studies it quietly, noting the angle of light, the way the sea catches the sun, the way shadows play across the dunes. Even in this sign of action, there is calm, meditative beauty. Somewhere nearby, a soldier hums softly, a tune meant more to steady nerves than to be heard. Hans allows himself a quiet smile at the familiar cadence. These tiny human touches, the hum of a song, a whispered reassurance, the adjustment of a helmet, form a network of comfort amidst the slowly increasing tension. Hans notices a small detail. A metal spike catches sunlight just so, casting a long, delicate shadow across the sand. He focuses on it, letting the mind linger there for a moment, absorbing the shape, the texture, the rhythm of light and shadow, the distant cracks, the thrum of engines, and the column of smoke become part of a larger meditation, a layering of sound, sight, and sensation. Minutes pass slowly, measured by subtle changes, the swell of the sea, the shifting clouds, the occasional distant crack of artillery or gunfire. Hans feels the rise and fall of tension within himself, a quiet acknowledgement that the world is moving, that events are unfolding beyond control, and that observation, reflection, and presence are all he can offer. A brief gust of wind carries the scent of salt, seaweed, and faint smoke. Hans inhales deeply, letting the aromas fill his lungs and anchor him. He notices how the bunker absorbs and softens sound, the gentle creak of the wood, the faint rustle of clothing, the quiet rhythm of his own heartbeat. Each element forms part of the meditation, a way to remain steady as the tide of history rises slowly toward him. And in this quiet awareness, Hans finds a fragile peace. The distant fire is real, yet contained. The horizon is alive, yet beautiful. The day is changing, yet for now, the rhythm of observation, reflection, and human connection remains unbroken. He breathes slowly, letting the sound of waves, the vibration of engines, and the whisper of wind lull him into a gentle, meditative state, preparing for the moments to come. The morning deepens, sunlight spilling across the sand and cliffs, turning the coastline into a mosaic of gold and gray. Hans crouches near the bunker, feeling the warmth of the sun on his shoulders, yet aware of the cool wind carrying the scent of salt and seaweed. The distant hum of engines continues, now accompanied by subtle, irregular sounds, soft plumes of smoke, rising and faint splashes far along the shore. Hans shifts slightly, adjusting his rifle. His eyes trace the horizon, where small, dark shapes ripple across the water. Boats are no longer distant dots. Their outlines have grown, and the rhythmic pulse of their engines has become a steady thrum that vibrates through the sand beneath his boots. Each ripple of the sea seems to echo the movement beyond it, as if the waves themselves are aware of the approaching tide of men and machines. Around him, soldiers move with measured precision. One adjusts the angle of a barrier, another checks a nearby mine, and a few exchange whispers about what they can see. Their words are low, deliberate, forming part of the quiet symphony of preparation that fills the morning. Hans notices small gestures, a hand brushing sand from a comrade's sleeve, the soft click of metal adjusting, the subtle shift of weight as each man balances on uneven ground. A flash of sunlight glints off the water, briefly illuminating a boat's edge. Hans focuses on it, noting the movement of the waves, the sway of the hull, the reflection of light. He inhales slowly, letting each detail anchor him. The distant hum, the subtle splashes, the glint of sunlight, they form a rhythm almost musical that guides his attention and keeps his mind steady. Then a faint, muffled crack reaches him from beyond the dunes. A small artillery burst, or perhaps the echo of distant gunfire. Hans flinches lightly, but his body soon settles. There is no panic, only awareness. He watches as the smoke drifts lazily across the horizon, curling in delicate spirals that contrast with the geometric precision of the defensive obstacles. Even in the signs of conflict, there is beauty. The interplay of light, shadow, and movement forms a visual rhythm that soothes as much as it alerts. Somewhere nearby, a soldier hums quietly, soft tune that threads through the morning like a gentle lullaby. Hans allows himself a faint smile, appreciating the small human touches, the shared humor, the whispered reassurances, the way ordinary gestures persist even in extraordinary moments. These subtle bonds weave a protective calm around the group, keeping tension from becoming fear. Hans notices the shapes on the horizon continuing their steady advance. Boats bob in unison with the waves, each movement deliberate, almost hypnotic. He imagines the men inside, their quiet thoughts, their own nerves, their own small acts of preparation. In this shared humanity, there is a strange comfort, a bridge across the distance that separates him from the unfolding tide. Minutes stretch slowly, measured in breaths, waves, and the shifting light across sand and metal. Hans observes the play of shadows across the beach, the way sunlight flickers on stakes and obstacles, the gentle sway of grass atop the dunes. Each sensation anchors him, connecting him to the present, to the rhythm of the day, to the delicate balance between calm and awareness. In these moments, between the distant fire and the growing shapes of the flotilla, Hans finds a fragile meditation. The world is shifting, history is approaching, yet he remains grounded in observation, reflection, and the quiet beauty of ordinary details. The day unfolds slowly, measured in subtle rhythms, and he allows himself to breathe, to notice, to exist fully in the calm before the closer storm. The sun has climbed higher now, warming the sand and cliffs, casting long shadows across the scattered obstacles along the beach. Hans crouches near the bunker, his eyes tracing the horizon where the flotilla has grown larger. The shapes of boats are now unmistakable, bobbing gently with the rhythm of the waves, engines humming in a low, continuous pulse that vibrates through the sand beneath his boots. Then he notices them, tiny figures, almost imperceptible at first, moving through the shallow surf. Soldiers, the first of them stepping onto the beach, cautious, methodical, their movements slow and deliberate against the relentless push of waves. Hans leans slightly forward, observing quietly. There is no rush to act, only the steady awareness of a world slowly unfolding beyond the horizon. Around him, his comrades adjust their positions with gentle precision. A hand brushes sand from a helmet, a strap is tightened on a rifle, a sandbag shifted for stability. Small gestures, mundane yet essential, carry a rhythm of calm amidst the subtle rise in tension. Hans notices the soft clatter of metal against concrete as someone checks a barrier, and a faint smile crosses his lips at the familiar sounds of preparation. The soldiers in the water move slowly, some pausing to adjust balance, others navigating the gentle current. Hans observes the interplay of light and water, sunlight glinting off wet helmets, the waves breaking softly at their knees, the sand shifting beneath their boots. Even in the approach of an event destined to change history, there is poetry in motion, a rhythm of human endeavor that is quietly mesmerizing. A distant puff of smoke rises from a landing craft curling lazily in the morning air. Hans inhales, letting the scent of salt and faint smoke ground him in the present. He notes the pattern of movement, the ebb and flow of men and water, the soft hum of engines fading into the background. Each detail forms part of a meditation, a steadying rhythm that keeps the mind calm despite the subtle undercurrent of tension. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a tune passed down from home, barely audible but persistent. Hans listens quietly, feeling the small thread of connection it provides, a shared human comfort in a world poised on the edge of upheaval. He smiles faintly, acknowledging the absurdity and beauty of life continuing in such moments. Hans watches as the first soldiers reach the sand, their feet pressing into wet grains, their bodies rising and falling with cautious steps. He notices how they help one another, offering small gestures of support, steadying a stumble, sharing whispered words of encouragement. Even in this brief moment of observation, there is a quiet testament to resilience and human connection. Time stretches, measured in gentle breaths, the soft rhythm of waves, and the slow advance of figures across the beach. Hans observes the play of light on metal, the shifting shadows of obstacles, and the delicate ripple of water around the landing soldier's feet. These details anchor him, tethering his awareness to the present as the world continues to shift around him. The morning grows warmer, the horizon alive with movement, yet the pace remains slow, meditative. Hans feels the subtle pull of history, the quiet awareness that these moments, tiny, human, ordinary, are part of something much larger. And in that awareness, he finds calm, grounding himself in observation, reflection, and the gentle rhythm of the day unfolding. As the first soldiers advance across the sand, Hans breathes slowly, letting the combination of waves, wind, and human movement form a soothing, steady pulse. The beach is alive, yet serene, chaotic, yet meditative, a delicate balance of observation and calm that carries him gently into the hours to come. The morning sun now fully warms the sand, illuminating the coastline with a soft, golden light. Hans crouches near his bunker, feeling the heat seep through his uniform and the cool draft of the wind brushing against his face. The distant hum of engines has grown steadily, a low, persistent pulse that seems to merge with the gentle rhythm of the waves. Now, layered atop that hum, there are other sounds, a soft clatter from the landing craft, the gentle splash of boots moving through shallow water, the faint creak of wood and metal adjusting as soldiers shift their weight. Hans leans closer to the bunker wall, listening intently, noting each subtle nuance. Each sound is a signal, a story, a rhythm that guides his awareness. Around him, his comrades remain alert but composed. One adjusts a sandbag that had shifted slightly. Another carefully inspects a metal spike jutting from the sand. Their movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic. Hans notices the quiet choreography, the subtle gestures that keep tension at bay and focus intact. Even small mundane actions become meditative in the morning light. From the horizon, faint puffs of smoke rise intermittently, curling lazily into the sky. Hans observes them, taking in their shape, the way the wind twists them, the soft gradient of color as sunlight touches each plume. The scene is surreal, the world poised between calm and disturbance, movement and stillness. Each detail grounds him, reminding him that awareness and observation are his anchors. A distant metallic clang reaches his ears, a tool dropped perhaps, or the sound of equipment adjusting under the weight of water and sand. Nearby, a soldier chuckles softly, a low human sound that threads through the tension like a lifeline. Hans allows himself a quiet smile, recognizing the odd comfort in these ordinary moments. Even here, Amidst the rising tide of history, humanity endures. The first soldiers are now unmistakably on the sand, their steps careful, measured. Hans notices the subtle way they balance themselves, the occasional pause to scan the surroundings, the rhythmic sway of helmets and packs. He imagines their thoughts, their nerves, their quiet prayers or recollections of home. A connection forms silently across distance and circumstance, a shared awareness of vulnerability, determination, and perseverance. The waves lap rhythmically, their soft crash blending with the hum of engines, the splash of boots, and the occasional muffled shout. Hans allows the combination to form a meditation, listening to the layering of sound as if each element is part of a symphony designed to calm as much as alert. He shifts slightly, feeling the vibration of the sand beneath him, the gentle pressure of his rifle, the weight of the uniform, each sensation a thread anchoring him in the present. Minutes stretch, measured in breaths, shifting shadows, and the slow advance of figures across the beach. Hans notices small details, the reflection of sunlight on water, the subtle color of the sand where it meets the surf, the flicker of movement in distant obstacles. These tiny observations form a rhythm, a meditation, and a way to remain calm while the world edges closer to upheaval. In these moments, Hans feels both tension and serenity, the subtle rise of awareness balanced by reflection and observation. The morning is alive with motion, sound, and light, yet the rhythm of waves, wind, and human gestures maintains a soothing cadence. Each breath, each heartbeat, each glance becomes part of a gentle meditation, a way to navigate history quietly, calmly, and mindfully. And so Hans remains crouched, observing, listening, breathing, anchored in the present, attuned to the world unfolding around him, ready to witness history with awareness, patience, and a measured sense of calm. The sun climbs steadily, warming the sand and illuminating the coastline with a soft, golden glow. Hans remains crouched near his bunker, feeling the slight warmth seep through his uniform while the cool wind brushes across his face. The hum of engines continues, now a constant presence, layered with the gentle, irregular sounds of soldiers moving through surf and shifting obstacles. Then come the first subtle ripples of action beyond the horizon. Small bursts of distant artillery echo faintly, muted by distance, yet resonating through the sand and earth beneath Hans's boots. He leans against the bunker wall, listening carefully, noting each muffled report, each vibration, each soft plume of smoke curling from the distant impact points. There is no panic, only attentive observation, a meditation on the delicate balance between tension and calm. Around him, comrades move deliberately, adjusting barriers, checking stakes, and shifting positions. Small gestures carry weight, a hand brushing sand from a helmet, a strap tightened across a rifle, a subtle nod of acknowledgement between two soldiers. These quiet, human touches are rhythmic and grounding, a counterbalance to the rising awareness of conflict. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the sand beneath him, yields softly to each movement, the weight of his rifle pressing gently against his shoulder. The bunker walls, solid and cool beneath his palms. Each sensation anchors him, a thread connecting body and mind to the present, even as distant bursts ripple through the landscape. A puff of smoke rises nearby, thin and curling, painting the morning with muted grays against pale blue skies. Hans studies it quietly, appreciating the interplay of light, shadow, and movement. The world is alive with action, yet calm observation transforms each element into a meditation, a rhythm to follow rather than a storm to resist. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a familiar tune from home, threading a gentle human presence through the tension. Hans allows himself a faint smile, noticing how small, ordinary gestures, a whispered word, a chuckle at a minor misstep, a hand offered to steady a comrade, create ripples of reassurance that diffuse the anxiety of the morning. The soldiers in the water advance carefully, their boots pressing into sand and surf with measured steps. Hans observes how they balance, pause, and navigate small obstacles, the human rhythm of fear and focus subtly mirrored in his own breathing. There is poetry in their movement, a quiet choreography set against the rolling waves, the distant hum of engines, and the soft, intermittent bursts of distant fire. Time stretches, measured in soft breaths, gentle vibrations, and the layering of sound. The waves, the distant engines, the subtle crackle of small artillery. Hans notices how the light shifts across the dunes, the way it catches on metal and reflects in patterns across sand and stone. Each small detail grounds him, providing stability, clarity, and calm awareness. Even as the world edges closer to upheaval, Hans finds comfort in observation. Every ripple in the water, every glint of sunlight, every faint burst of distant fire becomes a note in a meditative symphony. He breathes slowly, allowing the rhythm of waves, wind, and human motion to guide him, steadying his body and mind. In these moments, between the first ripples of action, the gentle vibrations of history, and the soft cadence of life and human presence, Hans discovers a fragile serenity. The day is alive with tension and subtle movement, yet the meditation of awareness, reflection, and quiet observation keeps him grounded, attentive, and calm. And so he remains, crouched, listening, observing, breathing, the gentle pulse of the morning carrying him through the ripples of action with measured patience and mindful attention. The sun now rests high in the sky, spilling warm light over the sand, cliffs, and scattered obstacles along the Normandy coastline. Hans crouches near his bunker, muscles relaxed yet alert, feeling the gentle pressure of his rifle and the slight warmth seeping through his uniform. The low hum of engines pulses steadily beneath the sand, mingling with the rhythmic crash of waves on the shore. Now, the distant bursts and puffs of smoke have grown more frequent, subtle indicators of movement and action on the beach. Hans leans slightly forward, studying the advancing soldiers. Their steps press into the sand, creating a soft, staccato rhythm that blends with the other sounds of the morning. Each movement is deliberate, cautious, and oddly mesmerizing in its careful choreography. Around him, comrades shift positions with quiet precision. A sandbag is nudged, a metal spike adjusted, a helmet checked. Small gestures, mundane yet essential, thread through the tension like a gentle current, keeping each man grounded in observation and rhythm. Hans notes these details, letting them anchor him in the present. A subtle crack echoes from the distance, an artillery shell or a piece of falling equipment, its vibration carrying faintly across the beach. Hans remains still, observing how the soldiers respond. One pauses, adjusting his stance. Another steadies a comrade's pack. Even amidst the first edges of conflict, human gestures, helping, checking, steadying, persist. Small acts of care against the rising tide of tension. The light catches on water, reflecting in tiny sparks across the waves. Hans studies these reflections, letting the gentle shimmer guide his breathing. The waves continue their soft, endless rhythm, providing a calming counterpoint to the distant, irregular bursts of activity. He notices the contrast between the organic rhythm of nature and the calculated movements of men and machines, finding peace in their coexistence. Nearby, a soldier hums a quiet tune, barely audible over the hum of engines and the gentle crash of water. Hans allows himself a faint smile, acknowledging the subtle comfort that threads through shared human presence. Even here, in the shadow of unfolding history, ordinary moments endure. The whispered word of reassurance, the small smile, the gentle touch to steady a comrade. The soldiers moving through the surf now reach the sand, navigating obstacles with careful, measured steps. Hans observes their subtle coordination, the rhythm of their advance, the way they adjust to uneven terrain. He imagines their thoughts, their memories of home, their quiet hope for survival. In this shared awareness, strange, calm connection forms, an unspoken recognition of humanity across distance and circumstance. Time stretches slowly, measured in breaths, shifting shadows, and the subtle interplay of sound and movement. Hans notices the glint of sunlight on metal spikes, the delicate curl of smoke from distant puffs, the gentle sway of dune grass in the wind. Each small detail anchors him, a meditative focus that steadies the mind while the world edges closer to upheaval. Even as the sounds of action grow nearer, Hans remains grounded. Every ripple of water, every faint crack of distant fire, every shared human gesture becomes part of a meditative rhythm. He breathes deliberately, feeling the pulse of the morning, the waves, the wind, the low hum of engines sync with the steady beat of his own heart. And in this fragile calm, Hans finds serenity. The edge of contact is real, yet the rhythm of observation, reflection, and small human connections provides a tether to the present. The day unfolds slowly, gently, and he remains poised, attentive, and mindful, ready to continue witnessing the world as it shifts around him. The sun now bathes the coastline fully, turning the sand into a soft, golden expanse that stretches between the cliffs and the sea. Hans remains crouched near the bunker, the weight of his rifle familiar against his shoulder, the heat of the morning warming his uniform. The waves lap rhythmically at the shore, a constant, soothing backdrop to the shifting scene before him. The first real signs of chaos are subtle, almost imperceptible at first. A splash that doesn't match the rhythm of the waves, a puff of smoke rising a little too suddenly, a soldier pausing abruptly in the sand. Hans observes each nuance carefully, breathing slowly to keep his mind steady. The world is moving, yet he remains grounded, a quiet observer amidst the unfolding activity. Around him, comrades respond with quiet precision. A soldier nudges a sandbag into position, another whispers a brief instruction to someone nearby. Even as small explosions ripple across the sand, the human gestures persist, helping, steadying, adjusting. These tiny acts, ordinary and essential, form a subtle rhythm amidst the growing irregularity, a meditation in motion. Hans watches the soldiers landing on the beach. Their steps are cautious, their movements deliberate, yet the environment begins to intrude. The irregular splash of waves, the shifting of sand beneath boots, the distant crackle of artillery. Each detail is noted, catalogued, and observed with care, a way to maintain calm while the world edges toward disorder. Sunlight glints off helmets and rifles, catching the eye like tiny sparks in a slow, deliberate choreography. Hans notices the interplay of shadow and light, the gentle curl of smoke, the rise and fall of small waves. Even in the presence of unfolding chaos, these details provide anchor points, threads of serenity woven into the day. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a simple tune carried lightly on the wind. Hans allows the sound to thread through his awareness, a reminder that human presence, ordinary, enduring, can coexist with moments of tension. He smiles faintly, appreciating the quiet poetry of small actions, a hand on a pack to steady it, a whispered word, a soft laugh at a minor stumble. The horizon continues to shift, the boats approaching steadily, the soldiers advancing across the sand. Hans observes the coordination, the small adjustments, the subtle interplay between order and disruption. He imagines the thoughts behind each movement, the memories of home, the quiet focus necessary to navigate the unpredictable rhythm of the morning. Time stretches in layers of sound and observation. The waves, the hum of engines, the distant cracks of artillery, the rustle of uniforms, the faint laughter, and whispered reassurances. Hans breathes in deeply, letting the mixture of smells, the salt of the sea, the tang of smoke, the warmth of sun-baked sand, anchor him fully in the present. Even as the first real signs of chaos manifest, Hans remains calm, noting the poetry within the disorder, the way soldiers move, the rhythm of the waves, the light reflecting off metal, the faint smoke curling into the sky. Each element is a note in a gentle, meditative symphony. In this delicate balance between calm and chaos, Hans discovers a quiet serenity. The beach is alive with movement. History unfolds slowly, and he observes, breathes, and remains present. Each moment, however tense or unpredictable, is softened by reflection, awareness, and the enduring rhythm of human and natural interaction. The sun now shines fully over the coastline, turning the sand into a soft, glowing expanse, dotted with shadows cast by bunkers, stakes, and scattered obstacles. Hans crouches near his position, feeling the comforting weight of his rifle, the warmth of the sun on his shoulders, and the gentle brush of the wind against his face. The sea continues its rhythmic lap against the shore, a constant, soothing cadence amidst the slowly rising tension. Now, the distant bursts of artillery and splashes in the surf are closer, more pronounced. Hans listens carefully as the vibrations of the sand beneath him subtly shift with each impact. There is no sudden alarm, only observation, a quiet awareness that each sound carries a story, a movement, a shift in the day unfolding before him. Around him, soldiers adjust with deliberate precision. A sandbag slides slightly, quickly nudged back into place. A helmet strap is tightened with practiced hands. A whispered word passes between two comrades. Even in the presence of subtle conflict, human gestures endure, small acts of care, of attention, of grounding. Hans notes them all, letting these ordinary movements form a rhythm that steadies him against the rising tide of activity. He observes the soldiers landing on the beach, their feet pressing into wet sand, boots sinking slightly with each step. The tide pulls softly at their legs, creating a natural rhythm that blends with the gentle crash of waves. Puffs of smoke rise intermittently from distant positions, curling delicately into the pale blue sky, each one a silent signature of movement, effort, and the gentle chaos of war. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a familiar tune, threading a gentle human presence through the tension. Hans allows himself a faint smile, appreciating the small comforts, the whispered word, the soft laugh, the helping hand. These gestures ripple quietly across the scene, reminders that even in the edges of conflict, humanity persists. The horizon continues to shift. Boats move steadily, soldiers advance carefully, and the interplay of human motion, waves, and sunlight creates a rhythm that is almost meditative. Hans studies the subtle movements of each figure, the pause before a step, the adjustment of a weapon, the soft sway of a pack. He imagines the thoughts behind these movements, the quiet focus, the memories of home, the resilience threading through each action. Time stretches slowly, measured in subtle vibrations, the gentle crash of waves, the low hum of engines, the occasional crack of distant artillery, and the soft interactions of humans amid movement. Hans notices the interplay of light on sand, the delicate shadows cast by obstacles, the glint of metal reflecting sunlight. Each detail grounds him in observation, keeping his mind calm even as the world shifts closer to direct engagement. Even as the first signs of immediate conflict appear, Hans feels the calm rhythm of his awareness. The beach is alive with movement, yet he observes, breathes, and remains present. Each breath, each heartbeat, each small human interaction forms a soothing cadence, a way to navigate the first waves of action without losing focus or serenity. In these moments, Hans discovers a delicate balance. Chaos brushes the edges of his awareness, yet the world remains poetic in motion. The waves, the sunlight, the ripple of soldiers, the whispers and hums threading through the morning. It is a fragile, quiet meditation, and Hans leans into it, letting observation, reflection, and calm carry him through the hours to come. The sun continues its climb, spilling warmth across the sand, cliffs, and scattered defenses along the beach. Hans crouches near his bunker, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle and the gentle wind brushing his face. The low hum of engines merges with the rhythm of waves, a steady pulse that carries him through the slowly intensifying morning. Now, the scene grows more immediate. Faint cries and calls drift from the advancing soldiers, soft at first, almost imperceptible over the hum of water and engines. Hans hears the occasional thud of a soldier falling, the subtle disturbance of sand shifting under hurried footsteps. There is no panic in his stance, only calm observation, a measured awareness of what unfolds around him. Around him, comrades respond with quiet efficiency. A hand steadies a soldier caught in the surf. A whispered word of reassurance passes, a small gesture of care, adjusting a pack, offering a touch on a shoulder. These human interactions thread through the growing tension, weaving a rhythm that balances the edges of fear with moments of calm. Hans notices each one, absorbing the quiet poetry of human resilience in action. He observes the soldiers landing, moving carefully past obstacles, some faltering, some steadying one another. The tide pulls gently at their legs, and the sand shifts underfoot with a soft, settling sound. Small puffs of smoke rise intermittently, curling against the soft blue sky, each one a muted marker of activity, consequence, and motion. Hans watches, noting the subtle interplay of light, shadow, and movement, allowing it to ground him in observation. Nearby, a soldier hums quietly, the melody weaving through the distant sounds of struggle and labor. Hans allows the sound to thread through his awareness, a reminder of continuity and calm. Even amidst the first signs of human injury, laughter, music, and whispered encouragement persist, tiny anchors of normalcy against the weight of unfolding events. The horizon continues to shift. Boats advance steadily, soldiers move across the sand, and the first signs of casualties are met with immediate care. Hans observes the small, deliberate gestures of aid, a hand reaching down, a pack adjusted to support someone, a quiet word guiding the faltering to safety. Each act forms part of the rhythm, a meditation on humanity persisting amidst hardship. Time stretches in layered beats. The waves, the hum of engines, the faint cracks of distant artillery, the gentle movements of soldiers assisting one another. Hans notices the play of sunlight on water, the glint of metal, the curling smoke, and the way shadows stretch across the sand. Each subtle detail is a thread of calm woven into the tapestry of a moment marked by action and consequence. Even as the first injuries occur, Hans remains grounded. Each breath, each heartbeat, each human gesture becomes a note in a meditative cadence, a way to maintain serenity while witnessing the edges of chaos. The world is alive with movement, yet observation and reflection provide a gentle, steadying counterpoint. In these moments, Hans discovers a fragile peace. The beach is alive with struggle, yet threaded through it is rhythm, light, and human connection. Every ripple of sand, every whisper, every soft touch carries him through the hours, a quiet meditation in the midst of the first echoes of pain. The sun rides higher now, casting long shadows across the sand and cliffs. Hans remains crouched near the bunker, the familiar weight of his rifle grounding him, the warmth of sunlight balancing the cool draft from the sea. The waves continue their endless rhythm, a gentle counterpoint to the closer sounds of human activity and distant artillery. The beach has transformed into a living mosaic of motion. Soldiers move cautiously, some steadying others, some adjusting packs and weapons, all navigating the uneven terrain. The soft crunch of sand beneath boots forms a subtle beat that merges with the lapping of the sea, creating a layered rhythm that Hans absorbs with each breath. Small puffs of smoke rise here and there, thin columns twisting gently in the morning breeze. Hans observes them with quiet attention, noting the way sunlight catches their edges and shadows fall across the sand. The interplay of light, movement, and sound creates a meditative tapestry, softening the edges of danger with the poetry of observation. Nearby, a soldier hums lightly, threading a delicate human melody through the scene. Hans smiles faintly, appreciating these small signs of comfort. Even amidst bursts of distant fire and scattered cries, ordinary gestures, helping a fellow soldier, offering a whispered word of reassurance, a gentle laugh at a minor stumble, provide a subtle cadence of humanity. Hans notices the ebb and flow of interaction. One soldier pauses to assist someone struggling through the surf. Another adjusts the positioning of a barrier for better footing. These tiny, deliberate acts ripple quietly across the scene, a reminder that human connection persists even in the edges of chaos. Hans breathes slowly, letting these movements anchor him in the present. The horizon continues to shift. Boats move steadily, soldiers advance cautiously, and occasional distant cracks of artillery punctuate the rhythm of the day. Hans observes the glint of metal in sunlight, the gentle sway of packs and equipment, and the way shadows stretch and contract across sand and obstacles. Each small detail grounds him, forming a meditation on awareness, focus, and patience. The waves lap gently at the shore, a constant, soothing presence. Hans feels the subtle vibration of sand beneath his boots, the weight of his uniform and rifle, the soft brush of wind against his skin. These sensations provide a steady rhythm, a sensory anchor amidst the gentle chaos of movement and sound. Even as injuries and confusion appear sporadically across the beach, Hans remains calm. The human gestures around him, reaching hands, whispered instructions, supportive touches, create a soft, continuous pulse that threads through the day. He allows himself to follow this rhythm, synchronizing his awareness with the ebb and flow of action around him. In these moments, Hans discovers a quiet resilience. The beach is alive with activity, tension, and subtle conflict, yet the meditative observation of human motion, light, sound, and touch forms a delicate counterbalance. Each breath, each heartbeat, each small interaction contributes to a gentle cadence, guiding him through the unfolding day with patience and calm. And so, Hans remains, crouched, breathing, observing the rhythms of survival around him, a meditation, a subtle harmony in the midst of the first waves of battle, carrying him slowly forward into the unfolding hours of the day. The sun hangs high now, bathing the sand and obstacles in a gentle, golden light. Hans crouches near his bunker, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle and the warmth of the sun on his shoulders. The waves continue their endless rhythm, lapping softly against the shore, a gentle backdrop to the more immediate sounds of movement around him. The soldiers advancing across the sand are now unmistakably close. Hans observes their careful steps, the way they pause to navigate obstacles, the subtle shift of packs and rifles with each stride. The distant hum of engines blends with the soft crash of waves, the occasional puff of smoke curling in the air, forming a layered rhythm that feels almost musical in its gentle cadence. Around him, comrades adjust positions quietly. One leans slightly to nudge a sandbag back into place. Another whispers a brief instruction. A soft hand steadies a faltering soldier. Even in the proximity of conflict, these gestures remain calm, deliberate, and human, forming a subtle heartbeat that threads through the morning. Hans notices each one, letting the steady rhythm guide his awareness. A faint cry drifts across the sand, small, human, fragile, but immediately met with care. Hands reach out, voices murmur reassurances, and the rhythm of help and survival continues. Hans observes with gentle attention, seeing the quiet courage in each gesture, the resilience threaded through simple acts of support. The sound is softened by distance and perspective, a reminder of fragility, balanced with calm resolve. The horizon continues to shift. Boats move steadily toward shore. Soldiers navigate obstacles, and the occasional distant crack of artillery punctuates the rhythm. Hans notices details that are easily overlooked: sunlight glinting off a helmet, shadows shifting across sand and stakes, smoke curling lazily in the air. Each small observation anchors him, forming a meditative focus amidst the close encounters. Nearby, a soldier hums quietly, a familiar melody threading through the tension. Hans allows himself a soft smile, recognizing that even in the midst of these first direct interactions, small signs of comfort, humor, and human connection persist. A whisper, a gentle touch, a shared glance, tiny gestures that ripple softly across the scene, keeping the mind steady. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the subtle vibration of the sand beneath him, the weight of his uniform, the cool pressure of the bunker wall against his hands. Each sensation serves as a tether to the present, grounding him in observation while the world around him hums with close action. The soldiers on the beach adjust to one another's movements, helping, guiding, and navigating the uneven sand. Hans notices the rhythm of their motion, the rise and fall, the pauses, the shifts, and imagines the quiet focus, memories, and determination that guide each step. In this, he finds a sense of calm, a meditation on the continuity of human effort amidst uncertainty. Even as the first real encounters unfold on the sand, Hans remains mindful and steady. Every breath, every heartbeat, every human interaction forms a delicate rhythm, a gentle cadence that threads through the day. The beach is alive with motion, yet observation, reflection, and calm awareness carry him gently forward. In these moments, Hans discovers a quiet serenity. The first close encounters, the subtle chaos, the human gestures, all of it combines into a meditative harmony. He breathes slowly, listens intently, and allows the rhythm of waves, wind, light, and movement to guide him through the unfolding morning. Ready for whatever comes next, the sun now hovers high above, casting sharp lines of light and shadow across the sand, stakes, and scattered bunkers. Hans crouches near his position, the familiar weight of his rifle pressing gently against his shoulder. The waves continue their slow, rhythmic lap against the shore, soothing undercurrent to the subtle crescendos of action growing closer. The sounds are more immediate now. The distant hum of engines is joined by sharp, irregular cracks, distant artillery, rifles, and the soft echo of metal striking metal. Hans listens intently, allowing each sound to register without panic, letting the vibrations of sand beneath his boots and the faint hum of the wind through the dunes anchor him in the present. Around him, soldiers move with quiet precision, hands steady, trembling comrades. Straps are tightened on rifles, barriers adjusted. Every gesture is deliberate, almost ritualistic, forming a rhythm of calm that threads through the increasing tension. Hans notices how each small action contributes to the stability of the group, subtle choreography amidst the chaos. On the beach, soldiers advance with caution, moving through the uneven sand and shallow surf. Some falter, others offer gentle support. The soft crunch of boots, the occasional splash, the low murmur of whispered guidance, all blend into a layered soundscape, a muted symphony of human presence amidst the shadows of conflict. Hans observes, letting the cadence soothe him even as the sensory details grow sharper. Faint puffs of smoke rise and twist lazily in the breeze, curling above sandbags and obstacles. Hans watches how the sunlight catches the edges, creating delicate patterns in the air. The interplay of shadow, light, and movement forms a visual rhythm, softening the harsher edges of the day and providing him with a meditative focus. Nearby, Soldier hums quietly, a melody barely audible over the layered sounds of movement and distant fire. Hans allows the tune to weave through his awareness, a small thread of continuity and comfort in the midst of unfolding events. Even in moments of rising tension, human connection persists in subtle, grounding ways. Hans notices the ebb and flow of motion on the beach. Soldiers pause, adjust, help one another, and continue their advance. The rise and fall of their movement, the soft rhythm of interaction, The delicate interplay of light, sound, and vibration, it all becomes a meditation, a way to maintain calm while the sensory intensity grows. The scent of salt, faint smoke, and sun-baked sand fills his senses, anchoring him in the present. Hans breathes slowly, letting each inhale and exhale sync with the waves and the distant vibrations. Even as action intensifies, he finds a fragile serenity in observation, reflection, and the gentle rhythm of human gestures and natural motion. Time stretches gently, measured in soft waves, low hums, and delicate interactions. Hans notices the glint of sunlight on helmets, the gentle sway of packs and weapons, the curling plumes of smoke, the quiet hum of whispered words. Every small detail forms a note in a meditative cadence, a balance between sensory awareness and inner calm. In this delicate equilibrium, Hans discovers a quiet resilience. The day grows more intense, yet he remains grounded, observing, breathing, and letting the rhythm of movement, sound, and light guide him gently forward. Even amidst shadows and echoes of conflict, there is calm, reflection, and a subtle harmony threading through the unfolding hours of the morning. The sun has reached its high point, spilling warmth across the sand, bunkers, and obstacles along the coastline. Hans crouches near his position, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle and the gentle wind brushing against his face. The waves continue their rhythmic lap against the shore, a soothing undercurrent beneath the rising sounds of human activity. The signs of struggle are closer now. Faint cries and muted calls drift across the beach. The soft shuffle of boots and the irregular clatter of equipment echoing through the sand. Hans notices the subtle rhythm of human response. A hand steadies a comrade. A whispered instruction reassures the faltering. A gentle laugh eases tension. Each gesture carries weight, small, yet profound, threading courage and care into the fabric of the morning. A soldier falters nearby, his foot sinking into soft sand, and another reaches down with a steadying hand. Hans observes the exchange, noting the quiet bravery in the simple act of support. Even in moments of fear or injury, humanity persists in small, deliberate gestures, a reminder that calm, awareness, and care can thread through the chaos. The horizon shifts steadily, boats pressing forward, soldiers navigating obstacles with measured caution. Puffs of smoke rise intermittently, curling against sunlight, casting delicate shadows across the beach. Hans studies these details, letting each glint of metal, each ripple of sand, each human movement anchor his attention. The sensory intensity of the day grows, yet he remains grounded, breathing slowly, observing carefully. Nearby, a soft hum drifts from a soldier, a faint melody carried lightly on the wind. Hans allows it to thread through his awareness, a quiet reminder that even in moments of strain, small comforts endure. Human connection, the whispered word, the helping hand, the gentle touch, forms a subtle rhythm, a meditation amidst rising tension. On the beach, soldiers navigate close obstacles. Some stumble, others assist them forward. The ebb and flow of movement, the quiet gestures of courage, the delicate interplay of light, sound, and human presence. Hans notices them all. Each interaction becomes a meditation on resilience, a gentle pulse threading through the morning. The air carries the scent of salt, faint smoke, and warm sand. Hans inhales slowly, letting it ground him in the present, in the rhythm of waves, in the pulse of human presence. Even as the consequences of action become more immediate, injury, fear, effort. He finds calm in observation and reflection, in the quiet courage of small gestures. Time stretches softly, measured in breaths, the gentle crash of waves, and the layered sounds of human motion. Hans notices sunlight glinting on helmets, the sway of packs, the subtle curl of smoke, the rhythm of whispered words. Each element forms part of a meditative cadence, a gentle balance between awareness, reflection, and calm. In these moments, Hans discovers a fragile serenity. The human consequences of battle, injury, fear, and courage coexist with rhythm, light, and observation. Each breath, each heartbeat, each quiet act of support threads a gentle harmony through the chaos. Hans remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried forward by the subtle pulse of life, human connection, and the soft rhythm of the morning. The sun has climbed to its zenith, casting long golden beams across the sand, bunkers, and scattered obstacles of the beach. Hans crouches near his position, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle and the gentle pressure of the bunker wall against his hands. The waves continue their rhythmic lap, a soothing cadence that threads through the slowly intensifying sounds of the morning. Now, the tide of movement is changing. Soldiers advance with more urgency, some faltering under the strain, others helping them forward. The soft rhythm of human interaction, steadying hands, whispered reassurances, quiet guidance, forms a delicate pattern amidst the shifting chaos. Hans watches, noting how courage, care, and determination ripple through each small gesture. Puffs of smoke rise here and there, twisting lazily in the sunlight. Each plume marks an instance of action, a subtle punctuation in the unfolding scene. Hans observes the interplay of light, shadow, and movement, letting it guide his awareness and anchor him in the present. Even as the day shifts toward greater intensity, the rhythm of observation provides a steady, calming presence. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, carrying a faint melody across the sand. Hans allows it to thread through his senses, a gentle reminder of continuity and comfort. The world is alive with movement, yet these small, human elements, humming, whispers, hands offered in support, maintain a steady pulse, a meditation in miniature. The soldiers, moving through surf and sand, now adjust to one another with subtle precision. Some stumble, others steady them, and still others offer brief, whispered words of encouragement. Hans notes the cadence of their movements, the rise and fall, the ebb and flow of human presence. Even in the edges of chaos, there is rhythm, and it guides his attention, his breath, and his sense of calm. The soundscape is layered, the soft crash of waves, the low hum of engines, the occasional crack of distant fire, and the gentle interactions of soldiers aiding one another. Hans allows each element to merge into a cohesive whole, a gentle symphony of observation that softens the harsher edges of the day. He inhales slowly, letting the warmth of the sun, scent of salt, and vibration of sand anchor him fully in the present. Time stretches in deliberate beats. A soldier falters, another steadies him. Smoke curls lazily. Shadow shift across the sand. Waves lap with endless rhythm. Hans observes, breathes, and allows the gentle flow of life, human interaction, and natural motion to carry him through the moment. Even as the tide of battle shifts, he remains grounded. Every glance, every whispered word, every gesture of care threads into a meditative rhythm, a soft harmony that balances the intensity of the morning. The world is alive with movement, yet observation, reflection, and gentle attention form a steady cadence. In this fragile equilibrium, Hans finds a quiet serenity. The day is transforming, the tide is shifting, yet the rhythm of human presence, light, sound, and natural motion carries him gently forward. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, and letting the ebb and flow of life and history guide him through the unfolding hours of the day with calm, reflective awareness. The sun has begun its slow descent, softening its light across the sand, cliffs, and scattered defenses. Hans remains near his bunker, the familiar weight of his rifle, a constant, grounding presence against the warm pressure of the day. The waves lap steadily at the shore, a gentle, unbroken rhythm beneath the sporadic murmurs and movement around him. The first wave of intensity has passed, leaving behind quieter currents of action. Soldiers move more deliberately, helping one another across uneven sand, offering whispered instructions or supportive touches. Hans notices the subtle choreography. A hand steadies a faltering pack, a foot nudges a shifting sandbag back into place. A whispered word reassures a trembling comrade. These small acts, ordinary yet profound, thread through the day like a slow, comforting heartbeat. The horizon stretches wide, boats retreating slightly, soldiers pausing briefly on the shore. Puffs of smoke rise and dissolve into the pale afternoon sky. Hans observes them with quiet attention, tracing the gentle curl of each plume, the way sunlight scatters along its edges. Even amidst the remnants of conflict, there is poetry in motion, and he allows it to settle in his awareness. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, the faint melody weaving through the ambient sounds of waves, wind, and distant movement. Hans smiles faintly, appreciating the quiet persistence of human comfort. Even in moments touched by fear or fatigue, the ordinary rhythms of connection endure. Whispered words, helping hands, shared laughter, they form a delicate cadence, grounding him in observation and calm. The sand beneath his boots shifts subtly with each step, the weight of his uniform and rifle pressing gently. Hans notices every small vibration, every subtle shift in light and shadow, every ripple of movement in the surf. These details form a meditative rhythm, helping him remain present even as the day stretches toward afternoon. Occasionally, a faint shout or clatter punctuates the quiet. A soldier stumbles in the surf, assisted by a comrade. A small piece of equipment falls and is retrieved. Each sound, each interaction is absorbed gently, recorded in observation without alarm, woven into the broader pattern of the day's unfolding. Hans allows himself to reflect on the human stories around him, the courage in small gestures, the patience in careful movement, the quiet determination to persist even when fatigue presses heavily. The beach is alive with subtle currents of effort, care, and resilience, and he follows their rhythm as if tracing a gentle, invisible river through the sand. The sun softens further, casting a golden haze over the scene. Waves continue their steady rhythm. The low hum of distant engines persists, and human interactions ripple softly across the sand. Hans inhales deeply, letting the mixture of salt, warmth, and gentle motion anchor him fully in the present. Even as the afternoon unfolds quietly, the world remains alive. Every gesture of care, every whispered word, every shift of sand and shadow forms a slow, deliberate rhythm. Hans observes, breathes, and allows the gentle pulse of life, human connection, and natural motion to carry him forward with calm, reflective serenity. In these moments, he discovers a quiet, meditative peace. The chaos has softened into currents, the day flows steadily, and he remains grounded in the rhythms of observation, reflection, and subtle human presence, carried gently through the unfolding hours of the afternoon. The sun dips lower now, softening into a warm, amber glow that stretches across the sand and cliffs. Shadows lengthen, dancing gently over bunkers, obstacles, and scattered equipment. Hans crouches near his position, the familiar weight of his rifle grounding him as the heat of the day fades and a gentle, cool breeze brushes his face. The waves lap steadily at the shore, their rhythm unchanged, a quiet anchor amidst the shifting light. The beach has settled into slower currents. Soldiers move with deliberate care, pausing to adjust packs, helping one another across uneven sand, or whispering encouragement to those who falter. The intensity of the morning and afternoon has softened into a gentler flow, a measured rhythm of human endurance. Hans observes each interaction quietly, tracing the subtle cadence in his mind, noting how care and resilience persist even in exhaustion. Puffs of smoke rise intermittently, catching the amber light and dissolving into the cooling air. Hans watches them with attention, appreciating the delicate patterns they form against the darkening sky. Each curl of smoke is a marker of action, a quiet punctuation in the day's story, and observing them grounds him in the moment, forming a meditative rhythm between movement and stillness. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a faint, familiar tune threading through the cooling air. Hans allows it to settle in his awareness, a reminder that human presence and comfort continue even as the day winds down. Ordinary gestures, steadying hands, whispered words, gentle laughter persist in subtle, grounding ways. They create a slow, comforting cadence that harmonizes with the rhythmic crash of waves. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the soft sand beneath his boots, the weight of his uniform, and the gentle press of the bunker wall. Each sensation forms a tether to the present, a delicate anchor amid fading light and the quiet murmur of the beach. The horizon stretches wide and still, the last boats moving slowly, the final movements of soldiers deliberate and careful. The ebb and flow of the day is visible in every motion. A pack adjusted, a stumbling soldier steadied, a whispered encouragement, the sway of a helmet in golden light. Hans traces these rhythms, breathing slowly, letting them anchor his awareness in observation, reflection, and calm. Even as the evening approaches, the pulse of life, human endurance, and quiet interaction threads gently through the scene. The scent of salt, smoke, and warm sand lingers in the cooling air. Hans inhales deeply, letting it ground him fully in the present, in the rhythm of waves, in the quiet persistence of human connection. Even as daylight fades, these small elements maintain continuity, a meditative cadence of sight, sound, and touch. Time stretches in quiet layers, the low hum of distant engines, the soft lapping of waves, the gentle movements of soldiers aiding each other, the shifting glow of fading sunlight. Hans observes, breathes, and allows the delicate rhythm of the evening to carry him, providing calm reflection after hours of tension and motion. In this twilight, Hans discovers a slow serenity. The day has shifted, the chaos softened into gentle currents, and human gestures endure as steady, reflective threads. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried by the soft pulse of life, endurance, and the natural rhythm of the world as evening settles across the coastline. The sun has slipped lower, leaving the sky painted in soft shades of amber, lavender, and pale blue. Shadows stretch across the beach, long and gentle, pooling around bunkers, obstacles, and scattered equipment. Hans crouches near his position, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle and the cooling brush of evening wind across his face. The waves continue their endless rhythm, lapping steadily at the shore, a soothing undercurrent to the fading light. The beach has grown quieter. Soldiers move with deliberate care, slower and more measured than in the intensity of earlier hours. Puffs of smoke rise lazily, catching the last warm light before dissolving into the dimming sky. Hans observes them with quiet attention, noticing the subtle interplay of shadow, light, and motion, allowing it to form a meditative pattern against the stillness of approaching night. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a faint tune threading through the cool air. Hans allows the melody to settle gently in his mind, a reminder that human presence continues, even in the dimming light. Whispered words, helping hands, and quiet laughter ripple softly across the sand. Each gesture becomes a note in a calming symphony, balancing the weight of the day with the gentle rhythm of evening. The horizon is now a line of muted color, the sea reflecting the fading glow. Hans watches the movement of soldiers as they navigate the sand, steadying each other, pausing to adjust equipment or offer soft reassurance. The ebb and flow of human effort continues, a quiet testament to resilience and endurance. Each movement threads calmly through the day's closing rhythm. He shifts slightly, feeling the cooling sand beneath his boots, the steady pressure of his uniform, and the familiar weight of his rifle. These sensations form a subtle tether to the present, grounding him amidst the dimming colors, the soft crash of waves, and the gentle hum of evening activity. Observation and reflection provide a meditative anchor as the world transitions from day to night. Occasionally, distant cracks of fire punctuate the soft evening, reminders that the day's action is not fully concluded. Hans observes with gentle attention, letting the sound integrate into the layered rhythm of waves, wind, and human presence. Even moments that might suggest tension are softened by the slow cadence of observation, breathing, and calm awareness. The scent of salt, smoke, and cooling sand lingers, a sensory thread connecting him to the environment. Hans inhales slowly, letting it carry him fully into the present moment. Every small interaction, the touch of a hand, a whispered word, a glance shared, forms part of the meditative tapestry of nightfall. Time stretches gently, measured in the low pulse of waves, the faint hum of distant engines, and the soft movements of soldiers aiding one another. Shadows lengthen, colors deepen, and the world slows into a tranquil cadence. Hans observes, breathes, and allows the rhythm of human effort, natural motion, and fading light to carry him into the calm of evening. In the approaching darkness, Hans discovers a quiet serenity. The day has transformed into the gentle flow of twilight, shadows, and light dancing across the sand. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried forward by the meditative pulse of life, resilience, and the enduring rhythm of the sea and human presence. The sky has deepened into shades of navy and indigo, sprinkled with distant, twinkling stars. The sun has long since disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving a soft, diffused glow along the edge of the water. Hans crouches near his bunker, the familiar weight of his rifle comforting against the cool night air. The waves lap steadily at the shore, their rhythm persistent and gentle, a lullaby beneath the muted sounds of evening activity. The beach has quieted. Soldiers move in small, deliberate gestures, pausing to adjust packs, whispering reassurances, or helping a comrade steady themselves. The rhythm of human effort has slowed into a gentle cadence, as if the entire scene recognizes the transition from the intensity of day to the reflective calm of night. Hans observes, noticing the subtle interplay of shadows, light from lanterns, and soft movement. Puffs of smoke drift lazily through the night air, catching the occasional glint of lantern or moonlight. Hans traces each curl with quiet attention, finding poetry in their gentle, twisting forms. Even amidst remnants of the day's struggle, these small visual details provide grounding, a thread of calm connecting him to the larger rhythm of the environment. Nearby, a soldier hums quietly, a faint, melodic tune weaving through the soft sounds of the night. Hans allows it to thread through his senses, a reminder that human connection endures even when fatigue and darkness settle in. Whispered words, helping hands, and subtle gestures ripple softly across the sand, forming a gentle pulse of continuity and care. And the horizon is now a dark, undulating line, the waves reflecting starlight like tiny, moving diamonds. Hans watches soldiers navigating the sand, steadying one another, and adjusting equipment in slow, measured movements. Each small act, each careful step, becomes part of a meditation on resilience, connection, and the quiet endurance of human presence. He shifts slightly, feeling the cool sand beneath his boots, the steady weight of his uniform, and the rifle pressed against him. Each sensation anchors him in the present, tethering him gently to the environment, the waves, and the small, deliberate actions around him. Observation and reflection form a quiet rhythm, balancing the lingering echoes of the day with the lull of night. Occasional distant sounds ripple through the night, a faint crack, a low murmur, or the shuffle of boots across sand. Hans absorbs each one with calm attention, integrating it into the layered soundscape of waves, wind, and human presence. Even in these subtle reminders of vigilance, serenity threads gently through his awareness. The scent of salt, faint smoke, and cooling sand lingers in the air, wrapping around him like a soft blanket. Hans breathes slowly, letting each inhalation carry him deeper into the present moment. Every gesture, the soft touch of a hand, a whispered word, the gentle movement of soldiers, forms part of a reflective cadence, a lull of observation and awareness. Time stretches softly into night, the steady crash of waves, the low hum of distant activity, and the gentle sway of shadows and light. Hans observes, breathes, and allows the delicate rhythm of human effort, natural motion, and star-strewn night to carry him into quiet serenity. In this full nightfall, Hans discovers a subtle, meditative calm. The beach rests under the stars. Human presence persists, gently, and the day's intensity has softened into quiet reflection. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried forward by the soft pulse of life, resilience, and the enduring rhythm of waves, sand, and human connection. The night has settled fully, a soft velvet draped across the beach and cliffs. The stars twinkle faintly overhead, mirrored by the gentle glimmer of waves under the pale moonlight. Hans crouches near his bunker, the comforting weight of his rifle resting against him, the cool sand beneath his boots, and a soft breeze brushing his face. The waves continue their endless rhythm, a gentle, soothing presence in the quiet hours. The beach is hushed. Soldiers move in small, deliberate gestures, their whispers barely audible, their hands steadying one another, their steps measured. The intensity of the day has softened into a reflective calm, and Hans observes each motion with quiet attention. Every movement, every subtle gesture forms part of a slow, meditative pulse that threads through the night. Smoke curls softly from distant lanterns, the wisps twisting into the night air, catching the faint light of stars and moon. Hans follows each tendril with his eyes, noting the way it drifts and dissolves. Even in the darkness, there is poetry. In the curl of smoke, the ripple of waves, the soft shuffle of boots, and the gentle murmur of human presence. Each detail anchors him, weaving a delicate rhythm of observation and calm. Nearby, a faint hum rises, a soldier's quiet melody floating through the night. Hans allows it to thread through his awareness, a reminder that human life persists even in the most subdued and fatigued hours. Whispers, helping hands, soft laughter, small gestures of care, all form a subtle cadence, a heartbeat of life woven through the quiet night. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the cool sand beneath him, the weight of his uniform and rifle, the gentle pressure of the bunker wall. Each sensation tethers him to the present, grounding him amidst shadows and faint light. Observation and reflection guide his awareness, keeping him calm and centered even as darkness deepens. The horizon is a low, dark line, the waves reflecting moonlight in small, shifting patterns. Hans watches soldiers moving slowly through the sand, adjusting gear, helping each other with quiet care. Each action forms a subtle rhythm, a meditation on human endurance, focus, and quiet courage. Even in darkness, there is harmony, and Hans leans into it. The air is scented with salt, faint smoke, and cooling sand, wrapping around him in a gentle embrace. Hans inhales slowly, letting the aroma carry him fully into the present, into the cadence of the waves, the soft touch of human interaction, and the subtle sounds of the night. Every whisper, every movement, every delicate sound contributes to a reflective, calming tapestry. Time stretches slowly, measured in the steady lap of the waves, the faint hum of distant activity, and the subtle shifting of shadows across sand and equipment. Hans breathes with this rhythm, letting the gentle pulse of life, the quiet resilience of human connection, and the soft music of the sea guide him into deep calm. In these deep night hours, Hans discovers a serene solitude. The beach rests under the stars. Shadows sway softly. Human gestures persist quietly, and the day's events dissolve into reflective calm. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried gently forward by the slow, meditative rhythm of waves, sand, and the enduring quiet of human presence. The night slowly loosens its grip on the beach, giving way to a pale, muted light along the horizon. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the cool sand beneath his boots and the comforting weight of his rifle. The waves lap steadily at the shore, their rhythm unchanged, carrying a soft, soothing pulse into the quiet hours before sunrise. The beach has settled into a still, reflective calm. Soldiers move with gentle care, quietly checking equipment, adjusting packs, and offering soft words to one another. Hans observes each gesture, appreciating the quiet resilience and human attentiveness threaded through these early hours. Even in muted light, these small acts form a comforting rhythm, that echoes the steady pulse of the waves. Above, the sky begins to lighten, subtle hues of pale pink and soft gold brushing the edges of the horizon. Smoke from distant lanterns curls faintly in the cooling air, catching the first hints of color. Hans watches, noticing the delicate interplay of shadow, light, and gentle motion. Each small observation forms a meditative rhythm, a bridge between night and the approaching morning. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, the melody threading gently through the cool air. Hans allows it to flow through his awareness, a quiet reminder that human presence, comfort, and connection persist even in the transitional hours. Whispered words, helping hands, and gentle laughter ripple softly across the sand, creating a subtle cadence that blends with the first whispers of light. Hans shifts again, feeling the gentle brush of wind, the subtle vibration of sand beneath his boots, and the comforting pressure of his uniform. Each sensation grounds him in the present, tethering him to the quiet rhythm of the beach. Observation and reflection form a slow, deliberate meditation on resilience, attentiveness, and the gentle anticipation of a new day. The horizon stretches wide, the first hints of sunlight illuminating distant waves in delicate patterns of gold and silver. Hans watches soldiers moving slowly, adjusting positions, helping one another, and preparing quietly. The ebb and flow of human effort continues, a measured rhythm that harmonizes with the rising light and the gentle pulse of the sea. The air carries the scent of salt, faint smoke, and damp sand, wrapping around Hans like a soft cloak. He inhales slowly, letting each breath carry him into the present, into the rhythm of waves, and into the subtle anticipation threading through human activity. Each whisper, each small gesture, each quiet movement contributes to a reflective, calming tapestry of life and endurance. Time stretches gently, measured in the lap of waves, the low hum of distant activity, and the subtle shifting of light and shadow. Hans breathes with this rhythm, allowing the delicate pulse of life, human connection, and natural transition to carry him forward. In these first whispers of dawn, Hans discovers a gentle anticipation. The night's calm lingers, the horizon begins to glow, human gestures persist quietly, and the beach prepares for the new day. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried by the slow, meditative rhythm of waves, sand, and the soft, unfolding light of early morning. The sun rises slowly, spilling warm golden light across the sand, bunkers, and obstacles. Shadows shrink and retreat, replaced by a soft, gentle clarity that illuminates the beach. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the warmth on his shoulders, the steady weight of his rifle, and the comforting firmness of sand beneath his boots. The waves continue their endless rhythm, a constant lull in the symphony of morning. The beach awakens gradually. Soldiers move with deliberate care, adjusting equipment, offering soft words of encouragement, and helping one another with steady hands. Hans observes, noting the quiet choreography of human effort and resilience. Every gesture, small and deliberate, threads a subtle rhythm across the sand, harmonizing with the steady pulse of waves and the warm light of sunrise. Puffs of smoke rise intermittently, catching the sunlight and dissolving gently into the brightening sky. Hans traces each wisp with calm attention, appreciating the delicate dance of motion and light. Even amidst the lingering echoes of previous intensity, there is poetry in observation, a meditative pattern forming with every gentle swirl of smoke every shifting shadow, every soft step across sand. Nearby, a soldier hums a faint tune, weaving a subtle thread of comfort into the morning air. Hans allows it to flow through him, a reminder that human presence and connection endure, even in the quiet routines of dawn. Whispered instructions, helping hands, soft laughter, all ripple gently, forming a pulse of a steady continuity and care. Hans feels the texture of the sand beneath him, the slight press of his uniform, the familiar weight of his rifle. Each sensation grounds him in the present, tethering him to the quiet rhythms of human activity, light, and sound. Observation and reflection form a gentle meditation on endurance, awareness, and the subtle poetry of ordinary, steady action. The horizon stretches wide, waves glinting in sunlight, boats moving slowly, soldiers adjusting positions with care. The ebb and flow of movement forms a gentle cadence, a rhythm that mirrors the pulse of waves and the subtle motion of sand shifting beneath boots. Hans notes each detail, integrating it into his calm awareness, finding serenity in the layered textures of the morning. The scent of salt, faint smoke, and warm sand carry softly on the breeze, wrapping around Hans in a subtle embrace. He inhales slowly, letting the sensory threads anchor him in the present, blending observation, reflection, and the quiet pulse of human effort. Each small gesture, every helping hand, every whispered word, every step taken carefully becomes part of a meditative rhythm threading through the day. Time stretches gently in measured beats. The lap of waves, the subtle movement of soldiers, the soft glow of sunlight across sand and obstacles. Hans breathes with this rhythm, letting the slow pulse of life, human connection, and natural motion carry him forward. In this awakening light, Hans discovers a calm, reflective clarity. The beach stirs gently with renewed energy, human gestures persist quietly, and the sun's warmth forms a gentle anchor for observation and meditation. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried forward by the soft, steady rhythm of waves, sand, and the enduring quiet resilience of human movement. The sun climbs higher, its light soft but firm, illuminating the sand, bunkers, and scattered obstacles with clarity. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the comforting weight of his rifle, the gentle warmth of sun on his shoulders, and the subtle vibration of sand beneath his boots. The waves lap steadily at the shore, a constant, soothing rhythm threading through the slow pulse of morning. The beach moves with quiet energy. Soldiers navigate the sand with careful, deliberate steps, adjusting equipment, steadying one another, and offering soft, whispered words of encouragement. Hans observes each gesture, noting the subtle choreography of human effort and endurance. Even in small, ordinary movements, there is rhythm, an unspoken harmony between action and observation. Puffs of smoke rise lazily from distant lanterns or fires, curling and twisting in the breeze. Hans traces their movement with calm attention, noticing the interplay of shadow, light, and air. Each swirl, each ripple, each gentle rise and fall forms part of the layered rhythm of the morning. He allows the pattern to settle into his awareness, a quiet meditation on persistence and continuity. Nearby, a faint hum rises, a soldier, soft melody blending seamlessly with the lap of waves and the whispers of wind. Hans lets the sound weave through his consciousness, a reminder that even amid effort and movement, small comforts and human connection endure. Hands offered to steady a pack, a whispered word of guidance, a shared glance, all form subtle threads in the fabric of late morning. Hans shifts again, feeling the cool press of his uniform, the familiar weight of his rifle, and the gentle contours of sand beneath him. Each sensation anchors him in the present, forming a tether between the quiet rhythm of the waves, the soft light, and the ebb and flow of human motion. Observation and reflection guide him, forming a meditative cadence in which every small action is part of a larger, gentle harmony. The horizon stretches wide and bright. Soldiers move deliberately. Boats rock softly in the waves, and the subtle interplay of shadows and sunlight casts delicate patterns across sand and bunkers. Hans notices each motion, each shift of weight, each careful adjustment, integrating them into a slow, layered awareness of the world. The scent of salt, faint smoke, and warm sand drifts softly through the air, carrying a gentle reminder of continuity and grounding. Hans breathes slowly, letting it connect him to the subtle rhythms of movement, sound, and light. Every gesture, every whispered instruction, every shift of a foot or pack forms part of the meditative pulse threading through the beach. Time stretches gently, measured in the rise and fall of waves, the soft shuffle of boots, and the quiet sway of shadows across sand and obstacles. Hans synchronizes his breathing with the rhythm of life around him, allowing the calm cadence of human effort, natural motion, and gentle light to guide him forward. In this late morning, Hans discovers a serene balance. The beach hums quietly with steady energy. Gestures of care and resilience persist, and the pulse of life threads gently through the unfolding hours. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried along by the soft, reflective rhythm of waves, sand, and the enduring, gentle flow of human movement. The sun now hangs high above the beach, pouring warm, steady light across sand, bunkers, and obstacles. Shadows shrink beneath the intense brightness, and the air carries the faint, comforting scent of salt and sun-baked sand. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle against his shoulder, the press of his uniform, and the gentle vibration of sand beneath his boots. The waves continue their rhythmic lap, steady and unchanging, a soothing pulse amid the soft tension of midday. The beach hums with quiet vigilance. Soldiers move with deliberate care, checking equipment, adjusting packs, and offering gentle words of encouragement. The earlier calm of morning now carries a hint of tension, the anticipation of what might unfold as the day progresses. Hans observes each motion carefully, noticing the subtle choreography of resilience, focus, and human effort. Every gesture forms a note in a slow, meditative symphony. Smoke curls gently from distant fires and lanterns, twisting in the warm air. Hans traces the wisps with calm attention, appreciating the quiet poetry in their movement. Even amid anticipation and effort, there is beauty in these small, fleeting motions, and observation allows him to maintain serenity, anchoring him in the rhythm of the moment. Nearby, a soldier hums a soft, steady tune, the melody floating lazily across the beach. Hans lets it weave into his awareness, a reminder that human presence, connection, and comfort endure even as the sun climbs higher. Whispered instructions, helping hands, and small gestures of care thread quietly through the bright, heated hours. Hans shifts again, noticing the gentle sway of his uniform, the press of his rifle, and the firm support of sand beneath his boots. Each sensation tethers him to the present, forming a meditative focus amid the sun's warmth and the subtle return of tension in the air. Observation, reflection, and the gentle pulse of the environment guide him through the rhythms of midday. The horizon stretches wide and bright, the waves glinting with sunlight, the occasional boat rocking softly in the distance. Soldiers navigate the sand carefully, adjusting positions, helping one another, and maintaining a quiet, deliberate flow of effort. Hans notes each movement with patient attention, allowing the subtle interplay of shadow, light, and motion to anchor his awareness. The faint sense of salt, smoke, and warm sand mingle with the heat of midday, forming a sensory thread connecting hands to the rhythm of the beach. He breathes slowly, integrating the gentle vibrations of waves, the quiet gestures of soldiers, and the soft patterns of sunlight into a meditative cadence that steadies both mind and body. Time stretches in slow, deliberate layers. The rhythm of waves, the soft shuffle of boots across sand, the rise and fall of smoke, the subtle shifting of sunlight and shadow. Hans synchronizes his breathing with these natural and human rhythms, letting the steady cadence of life, effort, and observation carry him forward. In this midday vigil, Hans discovers a quiet, reflective endurance. The beach hums with steady, measured energy. Human gestures of care persist, and the soft pulse of life threads gently through the day. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried by the gentle rhythm of waves, sand, sunlight, and the enduring, patient flow of human movement. The sun has begun its slow descent, spilling warm, amber light across the sand, bunkers, and scattered equipment. Shadows lengthen and stretch, weaving gentle patterns across the beach. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the familiar weight of his rifle, the press of his uniform, and the soft sand beneath his boots. The waves continue their steady rhythm, lapping quietly at the shore, a soothing constant as the day draws to a close. The beach has settled into a reflective calm. Soldiers move with measured care, pausing to adjust packs, steady one another, or exchange quiet words. The intense rhythm of the morning and midday has softened into a gentle, deliberate cadence. Hans observes each motion, tracing the subtle choreography of human endurance, resilience, and quiet determination. Every gesture forms part of a meditative tapestry woven through sand, sunlight, and shadow. Puffs of smoke drift lazily from fires and lanterns, curling softly into the cooling air. Hans follows their paths with calm attention, noting how sunlight and shadow dance across each wisp. Even in small, ordinary movements, there is quiet beauty. Each rising curl, each gentle ripple of sand or water anchors him in the present and threads serenity through his awareness. Nearby, a soldier hums softly, a melody weaving quietly into the evening air. Hans allows it to flow through his senses, a gentle reminder that human presence, connection, and care endure throughout the day. Whispered encouragements, helping hands, and subtle laughter ripple across the beach, forming a calm rhythm that harmonizes with the pulse of waves and the soft glow of fading light. Hans shifts slightly, feeling the gentle press of his uniform and the firm support of sand beneath his boots. Each sensation tethers him to the present, anchoring him to the layered textures of movement, sound, and light. Observation and reflection guide him, creating a meditative cadence that balances the day's intensity with the gentle quiet of evening. The horizon glows softly, the waves catching fragments of amber and gold as the sun lowers. Soldiers move deliberately, assisting each other with care, adjusting positions, and carrying out tasks with quiet focus. Hans notes each motion, each small gesture, integrating them into a slow, reflective rhythm of human effort and connection. The scent of salt, faint smoke, and cooling sand drifts gently across the beach, wrapping Hans in a sensory blanket of calm. He inhales slowly, letting it connect him to the rhythm of waves, the subtle patterns of light and shadow, and the quiet, enduring pulse of human presence. Every small action, every whispered word, and every gentle movement threads into a meditative tapestry that carries him forward with serenity. Time stretches softly, the gentle lap of waves, the soft shuffle of boots, the sway of smoke and shadows, the last warmth of sunlight across sand and obstacles. Hans synchronizes his breathing with these rhythms, letting the meditative pulse of life, effort, and observation guide him into quiet reflection. As the day closes, Hans discovers a deep serenity. The beach rests under fading light. Human gestures continue quietly, and the soft rhythm of waves and wind threads through the sand. He remains crouched, breathing, observing, carried by the calm cadence of life, resilience, and the enduring harmony of human presence and nature. In this evening reflection, Hans allows himself to sink fully into the quiet flow of the day, the pulse of the beach, and the gentle rhythm of life. The day's story concludes not with noise or action, but with observation, reflection, and the slow, soothing meditation of waves, sand, and subtle human connection.